From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. Hey, James, we just came off a real cool episode that we're going to talk about today. But first, how are you?
I'm doing great, Steve. And you're right. That was a very good episode and good one here too, as well as we review what we just listened to.
So for those of you who missed the past two episodes, episodes 46 and 47, we had a friend and a leader in the area of social media and marketing, Chris Neto. For those of you who don't know him, check him out. He is very active on Twitter at Chris_Neto. And he's also the person who both moderates and has really built a community around hashtag AV in the AM. And as we discussed on the first episode, that's something that is a online discussion that happens on Sunday mornings and happens to be where James and I really got to know each other. And we wanted to have Chris on to talk about that a little bit, how it came about. But what's most important here on the show is, what does it mean to us? What does it mean to programmers? So, James, I'll let you take the first shot at that. What do you think our audience needs to know, and what should they glean from what Chris talked about?
I think the first thing, really, what our audience should know is mainly like why we had Chris on is, as we mentioned, a lot of times we feel like a person on an island, and AV and the AM is a good way to branch out and at least get a colleague or a mentor or a friend that you can communicate, even if it's virtually, that helps you less be a person on an island. So I definitely want to say that's my biggest takeaway I've gotten from the AV and AM and from our episodes with Chris was building that community, reaching out, and having people that we could communicate with. And might be different stories, might be different avenues, but we all have life experience that we can help each other.
I definitely agree with that. Especially in these times where we're not getting a chance to see each other as much, but I think that a lot of programmers naturally don't go to events and don't always get out to see the AV industry at large. So having some type of an outlet is key. And I don't know that it's Twitter for everybody, but for those of you that are on Twitter, I would encourage you to check that out. I get so much out of it every Sunday, not only to meet people, but also to kind of get an inside track on what's going on outside of our own individual worlds. Because as much as we talk about programmers being on an island, I think that we all, if we left to our own devices, we tend to get insulated, and we hear and talk about and see all the same types of things, and being able to be exposed to new things and new people and new ways of thinking, I think is very healthy. It opens your mind to a whole lot of things. I wonder where our community does prefer to hang out, and I would encourage you to help us find that out. Because and when I say you, those of you out there, because it would give us some insight, because I think we want to be able to support that and also be participating in with all of you, so that we know and we hear what you would like to be talking, like us to be talking about. The other thing that I think Chris was also talked about that I think is important is that we should all open ourselves up beyond what we do on a day-to-day basis and get to know each other on different levels. So, he talked about the AV challenge and having a personal brand and being able to demonstrate to everybody that we're all people, and that's how we make connections. Anything in particular there, James, that you wanted to share? And
Oh, I would definitely say getting out there and learning. For let's say, for a good example, last week, the one was targeted around leadership, and us programmers, you may not be in a leadership role, like you may not be a CIO or a manager or any of those typical leadership, but how we can learn from those. We can learn from people who are leaders and get valuable insight to even help us with our programming um, aspect, our daily jobs. Just like, I mean, programmers, we got to know how to deal with time management and being organized and how to communicate with people. Like, there's a lot more than just writing lines of code, and hearing from different views, the diverse views of the AV community out there helps open your eyes.
I think well said. The, everybody too has a perspective too, and it's nice to hear and match people up, because not everybody is in agreement. Not everybody has the same experiences. Not everybody's perspective is based on good experiences or bad experiences either. So the all of the views kind of get thrown into a pot, and there's discussions that come of that, and sometimes those discussions uh, will branch off into other things, and that's always so cool and so natural. Um, what I think Chris also encourages is that this is an industry that tends to be kind of buttoned up, and you know, by nature, I think that there's a lot of people who have strong opinions but may not be willing to share them. But there's also some that are shy and that don't really have the confidence, let's say, or or feel comfortable reaching out and talking to different people. And I think having a platform for that is key. And again, something that I hope that we can create.
I, I gotta agree with you there. Having Everyone has to communicate in their own way, and as you mentioned, even us programmers, we tend not to venture out. We're a little more, in the shadows, in front of our keyboards. Um, so being able to connect and build a alliance or community with like-minded people and unlike-minded people, like to diverse and expand our circle, is very vital. Because we can't stay in the shadows, because you only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. And so getting out there and getting these different aspects and growing is key. And this is one avenue that can help people to do that.
I think the other thing that is important is that if we don't speak up from the perspective that we have in the industry, and I think that, I look at it, if you look, maybe I'm oversimplifying or making light of this, but I think that programmers are in the minority, and I think that they need to, because of that, speak up more. There's less people that are in this role, and we know that there's less people that have colleagues, but also we need to make our voice heard to the others in the industry so that there's more respect, being able to exchange information, being able to teach people. I mean, there's so much I think that programmers know that uh, so many other areas of this industry can benefit from. And sometimes we have to be overt by making them aware. They may not, like you just said, they don't know what they don't know. So it also holds true in the fact that we are not doing a good enough job of getting our voice heard. So I think that's something that we should think about, and we almost have an obligation to make our our jobs, our careers, our role a lot better by speaking up and putting a stake in the ground.
You hit it right there, Steve, is be speaking up and showing that we have value, showing that we are contributing members to the AV community as a whole. For example, you guys should know I'm in higher education. Joe Way is famous for saying this, is a couple years ago, if you went to Infocom and you had education badge on your ID, you were ignored. You're like, because you were just an end user. That's what people saw you. Now, if you go there and with education badge, you're pulled in the hush room. They're asking you what they want. Or like, what do you want? What, like HEPMA and higher ed was in force at the last Infocom. I mean, you looked at anywhere, we were there. Going back to AV and AM, there was a talk about end users communications or something like that. And one of the higher ed people mentioned something like, oh yeah, we're end users. And actually the community came back and go, we don't consider you guys end users because we're integrators now. We're doing the same things as integrators are doing because we made our voices heard. We show that we can do that job just as well. And if us programmers continue to sit on the sidelines, you know, behind our keyboards, being quiet, not rocking the boat, soon people are going to be like, oh, we don't need programming because where are you? Where are you?
I that was very well said. And I think that was a great analogy too, because look what has changed in how many years that HEPMA has really come out on the scene, and look at the movement that was created and the influence that now exists, and the fact that you standing up for yourself by saying that we are like you, and we need to be treated in the same vein, and if and in some cases better. So that's a perfect example. And so what is it going to take, I think, for programmers to really do something similar? There's a lot of there's a lot of talk that programming is becoming more obsolete or more or less needed, as you mentioned, and I think programmers need people to understand that the knowledge that they've acquired and the skills that they have also go beyond just writing code, and there's so much that we bring to the table. So I really encourage everyone that's listening to at least reach out and tell us, what maybe just one takeaway that you got from Chris's talk or what we're talking about today, and see if we can get a conversation going, because it would mean a lot if we want to be on. If you are on Twitter and you want to use the Ask the Programmer hashtag, or you can of course tag James or me. We'll tell you how to do that at the end of the show, as we always do. Before we wrap up, James had a really cool idea that we were going to borrow from Chris, and by the time you hear this, it'll be wrapped up for most people that started on day one. But Chris put together something called an AV challenge, and he called it a personal marketing plan. And I thought that was really, really insightful. And basically what it is it's you post you tweet a day based on a calendar, and what day you are dictates what you should be posting. That's the theme. And if we were to do something like that for programmers, what would be on that calendar? So I know that it's going to take a while for us to play this up and to tease this out, but I'd be interested if there would be a contingent that would want to play along here, because it's a great way to get to know other people. And Chris is so right about the fact that it's a personal marketing strategy. Do you have any further thoughts on that, James?
I think you summarized it very well there, Steve. I got nothing to add to it there.
We're having a lot of fun with it. I didn't do it the first time around, but it's amazing. You really get to know people on different levels.
You
So
do. I definitely enjoyed doing the challenge. I did it last year. I'm doing this year. It's definitely, you get to see the inner sides of some people, because they're not always business questions. Like, for example, day 22, which I posted today, was just a gif of how you feel today.
right.
And seeing the different gifts that people are posting gives you an insight of who they are and what they're going through the day. And so they're definitely good ways to open up and learn from each other.
I still have to get mine in, so give me a little bit more to think about it. Well, so hopefully everyone thought that you got something from our discussions with Chris. Let us know if you want more episodes like that. They're a little bit outside the norm, but we thought that it would be a good way to change things up, but bring some more value to the community. If you want to get in touch with us, James, how can they reach you, and let them know what other ways to see some of your work?
Best way to get a hold of me is on Twitter, AV_James King, or you can find me on AV on Sunday mornings with the AV and the AM. I'm on LinkedIn, but not there much. You can also find my writing for the Higher Ed Digital Magazine, the IT and AV column, and anywhere on the internet, I'm sure you can find me.
And you should. So for me, you can find me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. I am active on LinkedIn, so check me out there. And you know what? If you could, if nothing else, follow each of us or connect with us so that we know that you're out there, and just let us know you're listening. My writing can be found at AV Network, as well as my company blog, controlconcepts.net. And we hope that you continue to enjoy the show and look forward to building community together. And until then, this has been Ask the Programmer.